Okay, so today we're reading The Wild Swans, a retelling of the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale by Karen Mockler. So what that means is that there is a story called The Wild Swans by Hans Christian Andersen, and Karen Mockler is retelling that story with this book. So what does it mean to retell a story or retell an original story? So retelling is a form of summarizing. So have you ever saw a really awesome movie that you wanted to tell your friend about? Well, when your friend asks you, what was the movie about? Your response is your summary of the movie. What do you want to include in that response? You want the most important details, right? Well, this is helpful to do while we read. Engaged readers stop every now and then to retell in their mind what has happened in the story so far. This helps us understand and remember what we're reading while we're reading. So, summarizing. What is it? So, summarizing is giving a short statement of the important points. So, when we are summarizing, we are taking something like this and we are turning it into this. So, there might be a lot of details and information here, but we just want the most important information in our summary, so that way we can focus on what's really important and critical for us to remember, so that we can comprehend what we're reading and we can keep up with the story. Okay, so again, why do we summarize? It allows us to restate key information in a way that is short and in order. So that's another important factor. We want our information in our summary to be in order as well, because that's the way that it was written in the story. So how do we even begin summarizing? Well, right here is my helpful summarizing hand. And you can use this yourself when you're summarizing, and you can check by counting on your fingers if you have all of the important information. So, we want to be looking at who is in the story, what is happening in the story, where is it happening? Can somebody tell me, when I'm asking where a story is taking place, what am I talking about? Right, I'm talking about the setting here. When? That's also talking about the setting, right? Why did what happened happen? And how did it happen? So, when you have all of this information and you make your summary statement, you want to make sure that your summary is no more than 20 words long, because again, we want it to be a short statement of the important points. All right, so what I want to do with you is I'm going to read the first 3 pages of The Wild Swans out loud, and then together we are going to be filling out the important information so that we can then create a summary statement together. So we will put this here for now. Okay, so let's begin. The Wild Swans. There once lived a king who had 11 sons and 1 daughter. He married a wicked queen, and soon after the wedding, she turned the princes into 11 wild swans. With a strange cry, they flew up into the clouds and away. The king asked the queen if she knew where the princes were. She merely smiled and shook her head. At dusk, the swans returned. They flew through the open bedroom window of the Princess Eliza. As the sun set, their feathers fell off, and Eliza's 11 brothers stood before her. By day, we fly about as wild swans, said the oldest brother. Each night when the sun sinks, we become human again. All right, so let's take a look at our chart here. So, first, we're going to talk about who. So, were we introduced to any characters? Yes, we got introduced to a few characters. So I think I remember mentioning the king. So we have a king here. And he had a few sons. I don't know if I remember. Maybe I can look back in the text to remember exactly how many sons there were. So let's see. There were 11 sons and 1 daughter. So 11 sons. We have a daughter. And there was one more character that was introduced to us. Can you tell me who? Right, the queen, right? Okay, so now let's move on to what happened. So what was the problem, the conflict? What happened in the story? Well, if I look back in the text, it seems to focus on the fact that the witch turned the sons into swans. And in these 2 pages, it's giving us more information about the brothers being turned into swans. So because there's so many key details, I know that that's an important piece of information. So we're going to write the queen turned the 11 brothers or I should say sons, turned the 11 sons into swans. All right, so when did it happen? So again, I don't really remember. And this is why it's important that we keep track of the information and that we are summarizing while we read so that we don't forget these important pieces of information. So again, I'm going to look back in my text and I see a detail in the sentence, he married a wicked queen, and soon after the wedding,